We're going to go to Japan and start a nation for the most oppressed minority of all, gamers. Gamers rise up.
Everyone knows that if you're a gamer, you're literally prepared for anything, including the completely impractical and once-in-a-lifetime events.
Because I'm a gamer, I'm able to pilot a robot. Because I'm a gamer, I'm able to set up a massive guerrilla war against a gigantic transportation company. But talking to girls is still the final boss. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Overman King Gainer. Gainer, fine, whatever.
It's Gainer. In English and in Japanese, it's Gainer.
He got you on that one.
Thank you, Professor. I have, of course, with me, Professor Snek, PhD in pedantology.
Always happy to help.
I have Mr. Cog.
What's up, everybody?
And we have a guest. In fact, our first listener guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Noodle, and I'm happy to be here. I am the actual brother to famed Tomo bro Ditaku.
Yes, he indeed is, in fact, my brother from my own mother. It's true. I got a birthday cake when he was born and everything. True facts. And he's here because he was the one who actually recommended this series to us. And he recommended it to us a couple months ago. But unfortunately, much like our dear friend Cog, this recommendation, just the RNG did not smile upon it. So when we decided to do a Mecha Month, we all just knew that we had to add it in there. And wouldn't you know it, that's when the RNG smiled upon it.
Huzzah.
So here we are. And oh boy. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I saw this about 10 years ago. And while my memory is pretty good on it, I just completely forgot how off the rails bonkers it got and how quickly it went that way.
Oh, yeah.
You see that little snippet, that 5-second long text crawl that we get during the opening sequence? That's your backstory. If you don't read it, you just have to figure it out by context. And to this day, I have never actually been able to read that thing while in any form of motion because it goes by so fast.
Oh, yeah, it does. I had the same problem.
Well, the TLDR version, because actually I learned, because I did some research on this, that this series is not entirely original, but it's based off a series of science fiction novels from France called La Compagnie des Glacis, or The Glacier Company. Not any relation to The Black Company, which is a fantastic dark fantasy series. No relation to other dark fantasy series that we've talked about on the podcast. But we're not going into that. George R.R. Martin, you know what you did. About a tyrannical world where railway companies control the entire world and keeps everyone in these giant mega cities where they basically control all transportation in and out. Apparently they went on for about 30 years and there's about 100 of them. But if you're familiar at all with Overman King Gainer, this sounds a little bit familiar, I'm sure. And the thing with that kind of threw me for a loop was ultimately this world basically is a network of what they call dome polloi, or these giant artificial megacities. And basically, the entire world outside of these megacities are just as a frozen wasteland, and it's basically travel between these megacities is dominated by what they call London IMA, or London International Management Authority, and not, in fact, a person, as I originally thought. You have to understand, though, I'm coming out of Turn A Gundam, where they have such strange names as Agrippa Retainer or Gim Ginganam. So when I first heard London IMA, I'm like, oh, that's a person. Not so. One of these companies, part of the cartel that is London EMA, is the Siberian Railway, which, well, we see a lot of because basically their entire management wing comes to stop the Japan exodus. Basically, people decide, well, I don't like paying exorbitant prices for things like food, so they decide to just leave, reasoning that, well, we went to the Dome Poloi because the world is literally frozen over because of apparently human intervention sometime in the past. You know what? It's fine. The world should be fine now. It's been time. It's been time. We don't know how much time, but it's been time. So they just go off to somewhere else. And these movements are called exodus. And the exodus of this series is to go to the mythical, far-off land of Japan. It's Japan, but yes. And yes, there's a lot of wackiness along the way. What do you say about that, gentlemen? Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much sums
Quite
up,
wacky.
sums up what you need to know.
Yep.
The series focuses on our protagonist, Gainer Sanga, who gets, wrapped up in this because he is mistaken for Gain Bijo, a Exodus specialist that is brought to the Wolgoose Dome Poloi because, well, a lot of people within the Wolgoose Dome Poloi want to leave. And that is kind of our inciting incident. In the midst of doing so, they discover what they find, or they find an Overman, a bipedal humanoid robot, or biomechanical robot, because they seem to have artificial muscles, and they seem to actually have like a sense of touch, and they can get numb. It's very, very kind of tenuous what the overall capabilities / quirks of the Overman are, because they're all very unique. But that basically is the protagonists of our series, Gainer, Gain, and the Overman King Gainer. I got myself there.
Yes, you did.
You know what, Professor Hare, why don't you take care of this?
Oh, you mean the cast roll?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's see. The main cast is Gainer and Gain. And really, after that, you have the face turn for Miss Adet, who is a wonderful character who does not believe in supportive undergarments. There are, a Siberian ninja man who with a dark and tragic backstory. And honestly, he's not that important. There's the pit crew who repair the mechs between battle, and they're also not very important.
I mean, the one girl, Kona, is involved in a lot of things, but I could not honestly tell you what the rest of their names are.
The one who looks like an estranged Mega Man Battle Network character who wandered on set and got to stay.
You keep saying that. I don't really see it, but whatever.
I think so, at least. And there's a lot. It's a big cast, and they focus on a good number of them. Honestly, a lot of them are like C plots, and so they don't really go anywhere. And it's okay if you like have a few that you like and a few that you don't, because there's going to be a lot, to say the least.
And this is a Happy Tomino show, so you don't have the Victory Gundam solution of, well, there's a lot of characters.
Just kill them all.
Kill people, yeah. I think there's maybe like 4 deaths throughout the series. There's Yasuba, there's Zaki, there's...
Most of them are, and they're all pretty much bad guys.
Yeah, it's like Yasuba, Zaki.
Not very, not bad guys that you really are like sympathetic towards either.
The one thing that bothered me, though, was the fact that when they killed Yasuba Jean, he had that one little girl with him. And I'm like, oh, they killed the little girl? Dang.
I think that was just to show how far St. Reagan would go. Just to show that they were like, we don't care even if you used to be one of our ranked officers, we'll kill you just because it's convenient for us.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, St. Reagan is is London EMA's overall special forces. It's not unique to any one of the corporations, but it's just the overall force of the cartel itself. Just a FYI.
Yeah, that's most of the show, I would say. So we run into Overdevil at the end.
That's most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very late in the series. It's a very much a road road trip kind of movie because it's the overarching plot is them moving, but each time they kind of come into contact with either new overmen thrown at them by the Siberian railways or because of new events happening in their little caravan while they exodus.
Oh, no, it's not.
It's not like a super plot heavy show, but it's still very entertaining.
Yeah, I would agree. It's very, a lot of plots just kind of don't go where you think they're going to go, or they kind of just drop off. But I would say despite that, a lot of the cast is really entertaining, which I think is going to help kind of keep a lot of people into it. Also, the action, the animation and the action is still, I would say, pretty entertaining. Like a lot of the action sequences in terms of the animation are quite good.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the wackiest mecha designs.
I'm gonna have a hot take right now. This is gonna be Ditaku's hot take. The Overmen probably are my favorite form of mecha, just period. They're not like 30 meters tall like a lot of other mecha are. They're about 7 meters tall. And so they're not like super huge, but they're still tall enough to be useful compared to just a regular person on foot. That being said, they are all very, very individualistic. Even some of the ones which later turn out to be mass produced, like the Dominator. And you can basically tell, which is which from their silhouette entirely. And like the level of technology that just not only the level of technology, but just the way they're portrayed in the series is very unique. And I think probably the only other series that comes close to this is Turn A, where it's like, we don't really understand how these things work. We barely can maintain them. And yet they can pull some of the most magic BS. Like the very first enemy that they encounter, Rushrod, can just stop time. And it gets even wackier still to the point where it's like, oh, I just have this awful psychosomatic field where everyone just starts getting depressed around me, or everyone can hear my thoughts. And it's like you have to wonder in that point in human civilization right before the glaciation, it's like, what level of technology did they have that like that sort of thing is something they can just put in a robot, And so I mean, like when I have mecha and other things like in Exalted with the War Striders, this is what I go for. I don't go for, this is the RX-78-9G class RXG mega custom. It's like, no, this is Burndilio, and it can control lava, but only within, a 15-meter radius around it or something like that. It's very individualistic, very, very unique. And I think it makes it special compared to, as much as I love Gundam, it's like each one is just, unless you're a special hero or you're the Char clone, it's like there's nothing unique and you're probably going to die. And I know, but that's the point of Gundam. It's like, I mean, even when we talked about Mobile Suit Gundam, that isn't the way that Gundam goes, guys. I'm sorry. I think probably only Lasner ever went like that, or not even Lasner, maybe Elgane. But that being said, that's just my hot take.
Well, you do fail to mention that there is actually two types of giant robot in this giant robot series. There are the aforementioned Overmen, and then there's the much more simple industrial silhouette engines, which sit much more into the real robot type.
That's true. And that's partially what makes Overman so unique, is that most of the mechs we see, the Panthers, the Dagozos, the Dagobes, I want to say, the big tank ones they get later on, that's mostly what we see. Overmen are unique, and so even just having one is considered a huge tactical advantage. And, it's usually preferable to repair one rather than get a new one because, as I say, they can't really make new ones. So they have to, get by with what they can. I'm sorry, Cog, did I cut you off?
No, I was just saying it does have a lot. It is very, I would say the show is very Tomino. It's very like unfiltered, happy Tomino, I feel like. And it does borrow a lot from a lot of his previous works. You have your kind of typical Gundam sort of starting. Our protagonist gets into super powerful robot and has kind of super powerful plot armor. And we've got kind of our Char clones and things like that. But it's
who would be the Char clone? Is it Asuham?
Yeah, I was kind of going for Asuham. I mean, just with the gold, the yellow hair, and he's got the whole. I mean, his motivations are different, but
it's funny you mention that though, actually, because when the Golem first showed up and it was wearing the big white overcoat, honestly, I'm like, oh look, it's Zaku, and Zaku got thick because it had the long snout like a Zaku. So it's funny that you mentioned that. Actually,
it does kind of remind me a bit, like you said, of Turn A. Unfortunately, the only problem is that, with Turn A, we kind of get the idea of this backstory being like the rest of the Gundam universe. So we can kind of like insinuate certain things, where Overman, like Snek said, is like your intro, your backstory is literally like scrolls across screen really quick in the intro. But.
Yeah. And I mean, they do give you context clues, but I mean, for instance, but really, honestly, you kind of got to fly by the seat of your pants on this one and just kind of take things from context clues.
I think that people that like something it does really well is being just a awesome fun fighting robot show. And that's something that it's very like lighthearted. A lot of the cast is really entertaining. And despite a lot of the wacky plot holes, I think that's some of the writing is just quite entertaining. I can think of or even early sequences with Gain where you have that moment with a death and when he like lands on her, it's like, oh, instead of killing me, how about we make babies or something? It's just like there's so many wacky like lines like that in the dialogue, and it makes it quite just like out of nowhere and very surprising and entertaining, I would say, with how the characters all interact with each other.
To kind of contrast to your point, though, about Gainer being kind of the Amuro Ray, I feel like Amuro doesn't really earn the fact he's like, wow, I'm just a super talented prodigy. Whereas like with Gainer, you see him as he gets the Game King and the Game King title, and he is basically piloting a basically not Zone of the Enders using Overman. So it's understandable that, if he's actually in an Overman, he should be able to do relatively well. Whereas with Amuro, it's just like, I'm just a prodigy.
Yeah, which is funny because they also still don't want to fight, though. And it's like Gainer would rather be doing the simulated version of what he's actually doing.
Well, yeah, because he's a gamer.
It's kind of silly.
He's a gamer, man.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I'm like, dude, you're in a freaking super robot. Like,
yeah, and the funny thing is, I think up till the very end.
But I'd rather the fake simulated super robot.
I think up to the very end, he's still politically opposed to the Exodus. Even after a while, it's just it's not worth it to fight it anymore. This is my home, and my home is moving, so I might as well go with it. But yeah,
it took me a little time to warm up to Gainer, because at the very first like 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, man, you're kind of like this self-righteous jerk. It's like there's not a lot of explanation. He's like, oh, I hate Exodus because of unexplained reasons. And, but oh wait, my friends are here, so I'm gonna kind of hang around. And then you kind of find out, oh wait, my parents died, and I blame it on Exodus, and then that's where we kind of roll into that. But I mean, he definitely, the characters build on you. Certain characters right away I loved, like I found quite entertaining. Gain being one who at the very beginning is quite entertaining. And then I'd have to say, if I had to pick one that I really enjoyed, I'm going to go with actually a side character. I'm going to go with Princess Anna. I actually found quite entertaining. She was quite entertaining.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're doing this then. This is the Titaku Gun moment. Noodle, in case you're not aware, this is a thing we do every episode, basically. This is the gun to your head moment. Cog, you said your favorite character. Now this is the thing. You got to pick your favorite Overman now.
I would have to agree with you on the Overman. I think the best designed one for me is King Gainer.
Oh, whoa, sir! I didn't say King Gainer was my favorite. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go. I think Gainer's design was my favorite because it's got dreadlocks, and you're like, what other super robots got dreadlocks?
Okay. All right, Professor. How about you?
Okay, my favorite one comes from the fight that occurs because of its power. And I actually forget the name of the particular Overman because he only gets to be on screen for like one episode. But it's the one that causes people's thoughts to be projected outward. And everyone...
Oh, that's Veneta.
Oh, yeah.
Veneta.
Everyone can hear everyone's thoughts. And Gainer's like, well, if he wants to hear me, I'll let him hear me.
Yeah, that's Overman Vendetta, by the way, which is completely different than the Detonetta, which is the one that Director Kashmir has in the next episode. It's completely different, you guys.
Right.
But yeah.
Yes, of course.
So who's your favorite character?
Favorite character overall? I'd probably agree with Cog. I would have to say Gain. He's a big personality. He tends to steal the show when he's on screen. And the fact that he works with basically a walking painter's scaffold with a big old Overman arm on it for most of the series shows that he's still good even without the best tools available.
That's true. All right, Noodle, what about you? What's your favorite character in Overman?
I kind of have to go on continue on that Gain train.
Turn up the gain.
He's definitely, the Gain train. But something I can't believe that Cog and Snek haven't mentioned is that he happens to have perhaps the most badass epithet in the entire series.
Yes.
The Black Southern Cross. Awesome.
Yeah, and we don't learn until about 2/3 of the way in why he's called that, which is a shame.
Yes.
So what about your favorite Overman?
I think I'll have to go with Jimba. Jimba is best.
The thief one.
With the ability to steal anything, just like using the weird extra-dimensional powers that all Overmen seem to have in some fashion. Like King Gainer uses it to store his gigantic chainsaw chain gun. But yes, using it to like literally steal the muscles out of Overmen or the bullets out of the various weapons that people have. Just awesome.
Good stuff. I would probably, it's kind of funny. I guess I'm the contrarian now because honestly, I thought Asuhan Boone was just a delight. He's such an awful person. And yet at the same time, he's so #relatable because as a big brother, I'm like, would I follow someone halfway across the world because they wronged my little sisters? Yes, I would. And I probably would go a little bit crazy. But at the same time, it's like, no, he's an awful person, but he's so delightful to watch. And like his just downward spiral of self-destructive activities and actions and just how he manipulates literally everyone. So I'd have to say him, which I think is funny, considering, I guess, the fact that everyone else is like, oh, yeah, Gain, the guy who's literally, chasing is the one, is my favorite. As for Overman, I'd have to go with the Dominator, which I know is a shock to Noodle. But it's just so delightful. The thing is basically entirely made out of pudding, and it can manipulate its body and just become basically anything that the pilot wants it to be. It's so versatile, and it's just a joy. And unfortunately, Super Robot Wars does a little bit more with that than the series does. The fact that it actually has several attacks where it'll turn into a giant pudding and just pound enemies on it as a giant pudding. And it is about to do that, but then they get stopped by Gachko. So it's like,
yes, I am.
That's a shame.
So very shocked that is your choice. It's not like you haven't made multiple Exalted War Striders based specifically off of that.
Oh, I've had Overman King Gainer show up. I've had Dominator. I've had Inferanza show up. I've had Jinba show up. I've had a bunch of them. So yeah, there's no hiding the fact that I really love this series.
The funny thing, going back to Asaham, the funny thing about him too is like his entire thing gets like undermined by the end of the series because like I think it's like the last episode, his sister just is like, "Oh, gang, yeah, I got over him a while ago," and he's just like, "What?"
Yeah, and rather than be a good big brother to and good niece to his, his sister's child, he would rather go halfway across the world and nearly get killed, a dozen times to try and avenge the slight. Yeah, that his little sister doesn't give a crap about. But at the same time, though, he's like the perfect Byronic hero because he starts out with noble intentions and he just keeps making really, really, really bad, really self-destructive, decisions in order to fulfill this end. And it's like, man, you're like a human train wreck. It's really, really painful, but I can't stop watching you do this.
So, Mr. Noodle, I have a question. What was it for you about the series that made you want to recommend it?
Oh, it is just, in my opinion, one of the best animes, the best giant robot animes. I know that it would probably get me lynched in current company, but I'm not really fond of a lot of the really stereotypical giant robot animes, like Get a Robo and all that.
No, that's cool.
Please don't kill me, Ditaku.
It's fine.
But
it's okay.
He's your brother. He's not our problem.
Yeah. But anyway, it is just a really great giant robot anime, and it's one that really got me into a much wider variety of anime than I had been watching before. Because prior to this, like Gundam got me into anime, and I can thank Jitaku for that. But this is what really got me to go and look into the more super robot type. And the fact that it's so hilarious and it's so lighthearted, and the very episodic sequence of, very villain of the week for a lot of it. It just makes it a really fun, really easy watch.
Okay, so I have to ask now that you said that, and I know there's another series that's very similar that I'm like, oh, should I recommend that one? But now I have to ask. All right, double gun hit to your head time there, Noodle. Overman King Geiner or Gun X Sword? What's better?
Oh, no.
See, you have to understand, he really likes Gun X Sword too, so.
It's a very difficult thing for me to say, but I'm going to have to say Gun X Sword. Simply because while it does start out very episodically villain of the weeky, about halfway it shifts gears, and you find out the backstory to what had been going on, and that it really had all been building in this towards the one central story, which is a really nice writing for Gun X Sword that I think is just a little bit lacking in King Geiner.
It also, King Geiner doesn't have Mexican Gao Geiger, so.
That too.
Have you seen Gun X Sword there, Cog?
I've seen I didn't get to finish it. I watched it way back when it first kind of came out. I think I got busy with some other things, and I didn't happen to get a chance to finish it.
That's a good one. I don't think, Professor, you haven't seen it either, have you?
I have not. No.
Oh man, I guess I know what we're gonna do after in the next Mega Month, but it's a good series. It's good. Imagine, if you will, cowboy space mechs, and it's a revenge story, and Mexican Gao Geiger. And that's all I'm going to say. It's really good. It's really good. So we talked kind of about characters. We talked about plot. Music, then? What do you guys think of the music?
The music is great, but I'll raise you by posing this question. King Gainer over or Feel My Soul?
Oh.
Okay. Are you asking me?
Which do you pick over the other? Yeah, let's start with you, Ditaku. Gun to your head moment.
Okay, fine. Oh, geez, there's a lot of guns to my head. I'd have to say, Can You Feel My Soul? I like both songs, but I don't know. It's just, I love the guitar work. It's just, like one of those, like, yeah, get you pumped up, which is weird because it's like, in my mind, more high energy than the actual opening is. And yet it's the ending. So I just thought that was kind of funny. And It's also cool because basically in all the Super Robot Wars games that King Gainer showed up in, basically every other unit other than King Gainer will have Can You Feel My Soul as their default background, which I always thought was kind of cool. So that's my choice. Right. Although I have to say, it's not an indictment of King Gainer over. I like both songs. I actually really enjoy the music in the series.
All right, Cog.
I'm going to have to go with Dataku, Can You Feel My Soul? I think it's just a better song, which is funny because I think if I recall, Yoshiyuki Tamino actually was part of the one who actually had a hand in writing the intro, which is very just, King, over and over and over again. But not to say it's not catchy, as super catchy, but yeah, I'm gonna go with I think the guitar work, like Dataku kind of already mentioned, it's I'm a guitar head, so yeah, I'm gonna go with Can You Feel My Soul.
Makes sense. All right, Mr. Noodle.
I'm gonna have to follow in the same suit. I mean, Can You Feel My Soul is literally on my workout mix because it is something that really does just get me pumping. So I cannot fault that. I definitely, the intro has better visuals than the outro. Just hilarious, but I'm gonna have to go with Can You Feel My Soul musically.
Right. I guess that makes me odd man out. I'd go with King Gainer over, but again, both songs are rockin', so I fully get choosing either one.
Yeah, just having a bunch of the Overmen just do the monkey is pretty unusual.
Another reason why Princess Anna is an awesome character, because she literally at the very end of the last episode, she's like, "We're gonna have a big party, and there's got to be a song, and it's gonna go like this," and literally goes.
She starts singing King Gainer over,
yeah,
and
she
doing
does starts doing the monkey and singing.
Well, I mean, in most of the Super Robot Wars games, once you defeat the Overdevil, they will do that. You'll just have all your units out on the map that have survived just start doing the monkey. It's pretty iconic of the series, to say the least.
That's another one. Yeah, the Overdevil, very interesting character design. It looks kind of like a weird pig anus to me.
Pig bat man thing.
Pig bat Buddha. Yeah. There's a lot of Buddhist imagery in a lot of the Overmen. The Undergalames are, specifically a bunch of the Yaspa squad comment is like, oh yeah, they're like Buddhas. And yeah, they have the little halo that Dominator has on occasion, and even the Overdevil. And the fact that it'll have both, all of its hands will be, in this kind of wreath around it. That's a iconography of a lot of Buddhas, which is ironic considering it's supposed to be this incredibly dangerous, corrupting force. But that's Japan for you. So we've gone over the plot, we've gone over characters, gone over music. Guess we're in our final thoughts. Mr. Professor Snek, what do you think?
I like Happy Tomino. I like Happy Tomino a lot better than Sad Tomino.
You know what that means? We're going to have to do Victory Gundam soon then.
Oh, good. Oh, good. The most aptly named of all Gundams. And setting that aside for a moment, King Gainer is one of those series that I think anyone who is a mecha fan should experience because it's really fast paced. You hit the ground running and you do not stop till the last episode. And it's strange at times, and it's funny at times, and it's heartwarming at times, and it's just absolutely crazy. I remember watching it some 7 or 10 years ago and being like, that was good, but really strange. And watching it again, I'm like, yeah, no, this is exactly how I remember it. Really good and really strange.
So what type of final score would you give it then?
I'd say a solid 8.5 out of 10.
That seems fair. What about you, Cog?
I like the show. It's good. I had the similar. I think Snek kind of hit a lot of the points. It's very strange. I think people are going to get pulled into it with a lot of kind of things I previously touched on. A lot of the cast is very just lighthearted and entertaining. There's parts that are just extremely funny and silly with the writing. And then other parts that get really weird. I wish there was more detail because, again, it kind of feels like a series sort of kind of like what we touched on with Tournay Gundam, where you want to have more just information. You want to have a little more backstory, like with a lot of things. And then of course there are characters, like certain plots just kind of pop out of nowhere, and certain things, like some powers just are just like pure magic that can kind of come out of nowhere. But despite all of its flaws, it's a lot of fun. It's a lighthearted, fun watch. I think if I were to give it a score, I would say it's about a solid 8. It's definitely one for mecha fans. That's the thing I think that Gainer does the best, is it does the action and animation, everything, like almost just about every episode, like Snek mentioned, it rolls. It's most of the time pretty solid. So
cool, good stuff. What about you, Mr. Noodle?
I definitely give it 9 out of 10. Really great series. Really awesome. Definitely recommend it to anyone who watches anime. It has really great character writing. I love it. Both on both sides of, the heroes and villains. Most of the people have very believable, very human motivations. And because it is a giant road trip series, it really has to have good characters to be successful, because for the most part, they're just traveling across the wastes of Siberia and have literal tundra as far as the eye can see. So it can't fall back on the setting, got to fall back on the characters. And it definitely does that in spades.
Good stuff. I definitely think this is as has been posited before, a must-see for at least mecha fans. Although with the caveat that, you have to figure things out through context. They are not going to explain anything. For instance, even basic things like, what does the photon mat do? What is it? Well, it's these rings that Overman can produce that can somehow allow them to fly, that can somehow be used as a weapon itself, and can also be used as a shield. But how they're created, what they do, now that's just kind of that's a very small thing. And I mean, even like the organization of London EMA, what the state of the world is, all that, you're not going to really get that apart from maybe just side comments and little glimpses here and there. That being said, though, the characters are all, for the most part, very well fleshed out. You get to learn a lot about them because there's very low mortality in the series. Like, for instance, even, characters that probably would be inconsequential, like the Yasuba squad, you get to learn a lot about them by the end of the series because you've been with them the entire series, basically. But yeah, it's not going to be for everyone. You're going to have to take a lot from context clues. So I'd say it's a solid 8.5. I think that would be a good assessment. It's really good, but it's not perfect. But I don't think it's trying to be like, the magnum opus of mecha. It's just a fun road trip series. And I think that succeeds really well with that. Just know what you're getting yourself into, because you're going to have to figure some stuff out on your own. So, that was Overman King Gainer. I think we all kind of enjoyed ourselves, which I think is pretty cool.
No, it was fantastic to revisit. The next is the Ruby Spears Mega Man animated series.
This is taking me back.
That's my selection.
My childhood.
That's my selection. Yes. I actually recently picked up the series on DVD.
Yes. Gutsman's butt. Da-da! I do take that bullet for Mr. Lincoln.
Expect
brother.
a lot of memes. A lot of memes.
I've never, I rewatched it with the professor, and I never knew someone could sneer through speech, but gosh darn it, Proto Man just, brother. Just like every episode, he's like that.
So stay tuned in our next episode.
There's more mecha to come.
Oh, yes. And thank you very much for joining us here, Mr. Noodle. It was a pleasure.
Yes, very much so. Come back again.
It was fun having you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So, ladies, gentlemen, attack helicopters, we will see you next time. Have fun, everybody.
See you there.
Thank you for listening to the Tomodachi Brothers Review Podcast, produced and recorded by the Hipster Snek, Ritaku, and Cog. Sound design and editing by executive producer Sean Taylor Brown with Cog Sound Engineering. Music written and performed by Sean Taylor Brown with Costas Vaz of Core Insight Studio on the drums. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.